Today we've spotted the Reno 45 Pro Vision, the latest innovation from Monport. The Reno Vision has a unique adaptation to allow to see the work area. This not only helps with graphic placement, it also greatly reduces waste. Let's observe while Greg tames the camera calibration by using two different methods. His setup will include steps often overlooked and also things to avoid.
Hi everyone, I'm Greg from the Laser channel where we learn, create, and share. And today's video is all about calibrating the camera system on the Monport Reno 45 Pro Vision laser machine. I'm going to be using Lightburn software during this calibration. I'm going to have a lot of tips and tricks that I use for getting good calibrations. And while this video mainly focuses on this particular machine, a lot of my tips and tricks can apply to other types of laser machines, whether it has a built-in camera or you're adding your own. Let's get started with the first part, and maybe one of the most important, and that is going to be the target that the camera system is going to be looking at. Within Lightburn software, you can download and print either a dot pattern or the Lightburn recommended, these little squares that look like QR codes. We're also going to see that I've got a huge square pattern printed out, and I also have some teeny tiny little dot patterns. And when we print these out, the dot size that we use or the square size also has to, in a relative, kind of match the work area of the laser machine. The Reno machine that I have came with these teeny tiny little placards. We're going to be trying these first, but if you're following along and you've got a great big huge laser machine, well, you could print out a much larger target area, scaling the target to the size of the machine. The mini targets that came with my machine were printed on a nice plastic placard. The only problem is that it's a glossy plastic, and I can show it better on this other one that a manufacturer sent me. While it's nice and flat, when I catch the light just right, I get a glare. And if I have glare on this card while I'm trying to take a test image, it's not going to show up properly. Lightburn does recommend using these QR squares over the round dots. However, both will work. We're going to be trying both in today's video. I'm all set to go. I'm connected up to the machine. The main thing that we're going to be looking at is the camera control tab. If yours is not showing up, you can always navigate to Window and then make sure that camera control has a little check mark next to it. The next thing we're going to do is select the webcam or the camera inside of the machine, because right now it says none. And if I select the wrong camera, I'm on a laptop and I selected the webcam, if I start seeing myself on the screen, I got the wrong camera. That's an easy remedy. I'll come down here to this camera, and now I have a view of inside of the machine and we're ready to proceed. On my camera screen, we're going to see that there's two areas that's just white washout. That's going to be from the lights inside of the machine, of course, and that's just going to be too bright. If I place one of the targets in that area, the camera's never going to see that. So we're going to get that fixed right away, and there's going to be two different ways to do that. The first one's going to be within the software. I can turn off the auto exposure and the auto brightness, and we'll see that right away that fixed quite a bit of that, and I think we're going to start with that. The other thing that I can do, and I've done this in the past, is I've taken some blue painter's tape and I've placed that over the lights. It does cast a blue hue over the camera inspection area, but the camera doesn't seem to mind. For this first attempt, we're going to try just using the software setup with adjusting the lighting going out to the camera. I'm going to get started by doing something really interesting. I'm going to start where we're going to end up. This machine from a previous video already have a really good calibration in it, and I want to save that. So that's where I'm going to start. And to save a camera calibration, I simply move my mouse over the preview window and I right click and it pulls up this menu system and I can export the camera settings. Pretty cool. This means if I also do another camera calibration and I don't like the results, I can always go back to this preview window, right click, and I can import a previous known good calibration. That too is going to be one of the best tips that you can learn from this video. Now I'm ready to start with the first camera calibration using the little plastic card that came with the Reno machine. I'll make sure that the laser is focused down to the target card. This is going to make sure that the camera is going to be seeing the targets correctly. Next, we're going to make sure that the camera itself is properly focused. This is so oftentimes overlooked. I'm going to place the target directly underneath the camera, update overlay, and then we can zoom in and we're going to see these tiny little dots look like fuzzy little dots. On the Reno machine, the camera lens can be manually focused by gently turning it. Not every camera system can do this, so if yours doesn't turn, it's just going to be a fixed focus. Once I've made that adjustment, I can update the overlay again, and we'll see that the dots got a lot sharper. I'll make a tiny adjustment again and check out the results. I'll keep doing this until I have the best, sharpest image that I can get. These are two of the most overlooked steps when calibrating the camera system, and I think they're the most important. Now I'm ready to head over to Laser Tools and calibrate camera lens. This is going to start the wizard that's going to guide me through the rest of the process step by step. I'll verify that the camera selected for the laser machine and we have the fisheye lens selected. Sometimes if I run into problems, I'll restart the wizard and start with a standard lens. I found that it works sometimes better one way versus the other way. All depends on your particular machine setup. Our calibration pattern, of course, is going to be circles, and I'll click on Next. And here, it's just going to be a matter of following the little diagram up here and the placement of the target dot within the work area. Now I know on this machine from the previous calibration, when I move the target dot to the bottom of the screen, it actually is mirrored on my machine and it's actually going to be at the top. That's okay. Just follow the directions on this preview. Even though it's flipped, that's going to get corrected later on during the calibration process. This looks good, and I'm ready to capture the first image. And it said that the honeycomb is visible. Try again. I can always try and recapture. Sometimes it'll do something else and it'll grab a good image and it's just not capturing it. We're going to break out one of my next tips right away, and that is to grab some poster board and place that underneath the target. That's going to cover up all this other stuff in the background that seems to be confusing the light burn software. I'll be back in just a second with that poster board in place. I have some white poster board that came with the Reno machine. I cut it in half. The other sheet is placed inside of the machine, and I double checked the focus of the laser to that stack of poster board and the target, of course. Once I have that set, then I already know that the camera is going to be in the correct focus. And let's try this again. I'll hit the capture button. And this time I did get a reading, and let's try it one more time. There we go. See, sometimes hitting that capture button will use a different algorithm within the Lightburn software, and it produces a much better result. From here, I'll just click on Next and follow the rest of the steps, moving the target all around within the work area. Here's what I mentioned before about the camera kind of being mirrored on this Reno machine. I've moved the target dot closest to you, just like it shows in the preview here, but on the screen, it's at the top. Again, that's going to get taken care of later on in the calibration process. Here's the first problem that I'm encountering using that plastic placard that comes with the machine with all the little target dots on it. I'm catching a little bit of reflection on there, and it's blocking one or two rows of all the dots, and no matter how many times I hit the capture button, Lightburn software isn't going to grab onto that. So what I'm going to do is put a little spacer underneath one side, just like the little preview shows, and that should hopefully get rid of the glare on the target card. Well, that spacer just moved the glare to a different spot on the card, so right now I'm not digging using the little plastic reflective card that comes with the Reno machine. This mini card being kind of reflective is going to be a really good teaching point. Now, rather than me continuing on trying to force a calibration into the machine that probably isn't going to really work all that well, I'm going to change the dynamic of what's going on to help fix that problem. Well, there's kind of two things I could do. I could put that blue painter's tape over one of the or both of the side lights inside of the machine. That would be one way to maybe remedy that. But one thing that I do know that will work is using my own card that I printed out and mounted onto some cardboard so it stays nice and flat. This plain printer paper is nice and matte, like I mentioned earlier in the video, and no matter which way I turn this towards the light that's right there, it just absolutely will not catch any glare off of it. I'm going to get this set up inside of the machine, reset the laser focus so that I know the camera's in focus to the target dot, and we'll continue on with the calibration process. That is in a good spot. I'll click capture, and there we go. And now I can just continue on. I'll let you know if I run into any problems as I finish out the rest of this calibration wizard. Got two things to share with you. The first one being I can always restart the calibration wizard after I adjust the exposure and the brightness. That, of course, has a big impact on how well the camera is going to see the target dots. The other thing is, if I keep hitting the capture and I'm not getting what I want, I can always grab that target and move it slightly and see if I can't get a better reading. And for the very last one, getting scores of typically less than 5, which is very good. The best ones that we're looking for is 0.5 or less, but certainly anything under 10 is also equally acceptable. Now that concludes everything right here, and now it's time to align the camera up to a test engraving on that white poster board. And just following the directions once again, we'll make sure that the camera for the machine is selected. By default, it usually is. This is going to be what the test engraving is going to be. It's going to be a little target that it engraves along with a number, and it's going to do that in each of the 4 corners along with a double circle in the center. This is the step where it's going to take out any mirroring issues between the camera versus what's showing up on our screen. This is also going to be where we adjust our fill speed or the engraving speed. So I'm going to turn this up to 100 millimeters per second, and the power level, I'm going to turn that down to, let's say, 12%. And then the line engraving speed, we're going to turn that to 75, and we're going to turn the power level down to about 10%. And I can click framing if I need to, but from here, I'm going to just make sure that the focus is set on that actual poster board in there, keeping in mind that I've now removed this. So now the laser head is out of focus to that poster board. I'm also going to turn the exhaust system on and do the engraving for the camera calibration or alignment. All right, that didn't take very long at all, and I'm ready to hit the next button, and we're going to capture an image. And that is what it looks like. And we'll hit next, and what it wants us to do is click on the target of number 1. So this is, again, where we're going to fix all the mirroring and flip-flopping between the camera and Lightburn. And I can scroll wheel in, and I just double-click and put a marker down, and then we go over to target number 2, and we do the same. and so on and so forth. I'll click on next and then finish. Anytime I do a calibration, I want to check how accurate it is, and for that I'm going to draw a simple circle. And in this case, it's going to be about 10 or 11 millimeters, and I'm going to move that over to a red layer. That's always what I use for cutting or line engraving. In this case, I'm going to be doing line engraving, and I'm going to Control D or Command D if you're on Mac to duplicate that, and I'm going to put one of these in each of the four corners. And one more exactly in the center, or pretty close to it. I don't want to get it confused with these other circles from the previous step. I'll go over to cuts and layers, and let's check out the speeds. We'll go at 75 millimeters per second with a power level of 10%. That looks good, and I'll hit start on this. It's going to take just a second as it goes through and does all those line engravings. And it's complete already, and without touching anything inside of the machine, I'm going to go back over to camera control and update the camera overlay. And it took that picture, and now I can scroll wheel in, and we're going to see here's the circle that it made. And on this calibration, it's nowhere even near what I drew with the camera. This is definitely not a camera calibration where I would go over here and right click and save those camera settings by exporting them. So I'm going to reset the machine, and instead of using the target dots, I'm going to use the small version of the QR code squares, as I call them. That this is what Lightburn recommends for calibrating the camera systems. Everything's all set up inside of the machine, and we're really going to change things up on this calibration just to kind of check out the different results that we get. The poster board that I replaced, I took the white out and I put some blue in there, and we're going to see if that works any better for us. Now inside Lightburn software, I can go back over to laser tools, and we know the drill here, calibrate camera lens, and we'll go through. That looks good. This time, I think instead of selecting fisheye lens, I'm going to put down standard lens, and I need to change from circles to the April tags. And let's try this calibration. That looks good, and I'll continue on, and same as before, if I run into any issues, I'll let you know, and we'll go from there with it. One thing that I've been noticing is when I hit the capture button, it will process the image a lot longer than when I was using the dots. So the Lightburn software is doing quite a bit more to figure out where everything is at to grab onto some good numbers for a nice calibration. Same as before, we'll move on to align the camera. I'll remove the target from the work area of the machine, reset the focus of the laser down to just the blue poster board, and we'll do that test engraving. Once again, that was done in a jiffy, and we'll click on next and capture image. Go to next, and we'll zoom in on target number 1 and do the same thing that we did before. I'll update the overlay, and same as before, I'm going to draw some little circles. Same settings as before, and do this quick line engraving, and we'll check out the accuracy of this camera alignment. And I can see the faint outline of that, so let's take kind of a measurement. I'll grab the pencil tool or the pen tool, and I'm going to draw about the center of the line engraving and go up to the edge of the circle. I'm going to put this on a tool layer just so it's separated out, and I'm going to rotate this so it's horizontal, and while it's still selected, I'm going to come over here and look at the width of that line. That's going to tell me how far off the computer is to where the machine actually did the engraving, and right now it's just a tad over 1 millimeter, which is really, really good. Come over here, and we're going to see this one is off a little bit more. Draw that line, get it rotated so it's nice and horizontal. And this one's gonna be just over 2 millimeters, coming in at 2.2. And let's check out the one exactly in the center. So I've got that one, and that one is just a little bit over 1 millimeter. So for a first go using the QR code squares, I think I like this calibration a lot better. Now, one of the things that I found is using the QR square codes, the camera latches onto that image and gives me a good feedback number for the quality of the image. I get a lot more success with this than I do over the round dots that are kind of a legacy, outdated way to calibrate the camera within Lightburn software. All right, so in this video, not only did I want to demonstrate the camera calibration on the Reno machine, I want to share with you something much bigger picture, and that is there's a lot of different ways to get to the solution or the setup that you're getting on your machine. Like in this video, we saw that I used a number of different background colors for the calibration, along with a couple of different calibration test patterns for that. I also covered some of the different things that we could do, like putting tape over the lights, and I also adjusted the brightness and the exposure within the Lightburn software. So there's a lot of different tools in there to get the camera calibrated on the Reno machine or even your other brand machine that you're working with. I think if you find that you're having problems with the calibration, it may not always be just the camera on that particular brand. As we saw, there's a lot of other variables that can hinder or help with a good camera calibration. The last calibration that I did, we saw that it was accurate to within about 1 or 2 millimeters, and I think that's pretty good. I think I could get a little bit more out of it if I took some extra time and not recording with all the camera gear around me. I found over the years that manufacturers typically will specify the camera is accurate to within about 2 to 3 or maybe even 4 millimeters. So the fact that I rushed through it and I got a 1 to 2 millimeter accuracy is really good, even though I think I can get a little bit more out of it. As usual, I enjoy creating content like this. I like taking things that I've learned or things maybe I'm struggling with and sharing them with you so that you can see that sometimes, even for me, like in that first calibration, things don't always turn out that great. But I stuck with it and I tried some other things and it all turned out great. If you got something out of this video, show it some love by giving it a like or subscribe to the channel. Not only is it a great way to help the Laser channel grow, it's an awesome way to connect video content like this with other great people just like yourselves. And until I see you again in the next video, I am Greg from the Laser channel, where we learn, create, and share.